Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tangmen based on novel. So let's start. Elder Xian no longer bothered with Dubuzi. He turned to Huo Yuhao and said, Yuhao, have you considered how you're going to establish this organization? What will it be named? Everyone was discussing things among themselves, but now their eyes returned to Huo Yuhao. After Huo Yuhao rescued those hostages at Sunrise City, and with his discovery of spirits, Huo Yuhao shared the same status as those powerful titled Doluo. They understood that this creative and ingenious prodigy from Shrek Academy would undoubtedly become one of the strongest individuals on the continent in the future. Establishing a supervisory body that was shared among the three empires, and forming a conference hall of soul masters for decision-making was as generous as Shrek could be. The various powerful individuals wouldn't say too much about how the organization was going to be established, what it was going to be named and whatnot, because as the inventor of spirits, Huo Yuhao had the most right to make these decisions. Huo Yuhao thought for a moment, then answered, the main purpose of this organization that we are going to establish is to focus on reducing the killing of soul beasts by humans and to gradually change the relationship between humans and soul beasts. Doing so will catalyze the completion of the equal contract between humans and soul beasts, and spirits will be a way for soul beasts to transmit their spirits on. Why don't we call this organization Spirit? My teacher, the one who taught me how to execute this contract, left another secret method to create a magic formation in the shape of a tower so that the process of transmitting spirits will become easier, and so that a soul master's spiritual power can be more condensed. Therefore, our organization will be called the Spirit Pagoda. How's that? I suggest that Shrek City construct the first Spirit Pagoda. At the same time, the Spirit Pagoda's headquarters will be located in Shrek City. Shrek Academy is recognized by all three empires as a public place, so establishing the tower's headquarters in Shrek City will be most appropriate. After the first Spirit Pagoda is completed successfully, the second batch of towers will be established within all three empires' capital cities. These towers will serve as emblems for the organization, and they will also transmit spirits at the same time. My suggestion is for the third batch of towers to be established in cities that are relatively closer to soul beast habitats. This way, transmitting spirits will become a lot more convenient. As for how the organization will be established and what the rules will be, I'll have to ask you and the Academy to decide that with the Empire's top officials. The Spirit Pagoda was called a tower, but in reality, more of how it was named was because Huo Yuhao wanted to commemorate his teacher, the Calamity Necromancer Electrolux, who had passed away. Electrolux once said that one of the proudest things that he had done in his life was that he had once erected an eternal tower. Huo Yuhao had never seen that tower, but that tower was undoubtedly what his teacher liked most. He decided to name this new organization as a tower to commemorate him. Elder Xian tilted his head as he listened to Huo Yuhao's words. He was very satisfied with Huo Yuhao's suggestions. The organization's name wasn't that big a deal, as it was just a label. What was more important was that Huo Yuhao had suggested that the Spirit Pagoda's headquarters be located in Shrek City. This meant that forces from all over the world would deploy powerful individuals to be stationed at Shrek. At the same time, the second batch of Spirit Pagodas would come long after the first one was constructed, because the first tower had to train sufficient soul masters with spiritual-type martial souls, so that they could expand their organization. After this period of time, Shrek City would undoubtedly wield absolute authority over anything with regards to transmitting spirits. If the Great Star Do Forest cooperated with them, it wouldn't take long for Shrek City and Shrek Academy's status to rise by yet another level on the continent. Huo Yuhao didn't swallow the secret of spirits by himself, yet he also helped the Academy develop rapidly. What he had done was the greatest benefit that the Academy could reap. That gloomy shadow in Elder Xian's heart, because Huo Yuhao possessed necromantic abilities, dampened a little. At least, from what he could see right now, everything about Huo Yuhao was still normal. Elder Xian didn't express his opinions directly. Instead, he turned to everyone else and asked them, does anyone have any objections to Yuhao's suggestion? This group included Dubuzi, and these powerful individuals shook their heads and expressed that they had no objections, and that they approved of Huo Yuhao's suggestions. Shrek Academy had publicized the secret of spirits, which was a very important one, to the outside world. They were also going to establish an organization that everyone could participate in. The most important issue had been resolved, and it would be extremely shameless if anyone still didn't want to let Shrek Academy reap some benefits from this arrangement. Furthermore, Huo Yuhao was right. Shrek Academy had always been known for their independence, and they weren't biased towards anyone. Establishing the tower's headquarters in Shrek City was most appropriate, and even though Shrek City was inside the Heavenly Soul Empire, Shrek City was actually similarly distanced from all three capital cities. Huo Yuhao turned towards the beast god Di Qian, and Di Qian tilted his head in his direction. Di Qian also approved of his suggestions. Huo Yuhao would have to continue with his experiments, and all kinds of sophisticated and strict research would have to come next, so that he could base the abilities of spirits on solid ground. Other than that, everyone would have to deal with the various and numerous administrative tasks needed to establish the Spirit Pagoda. Those powerful individuals all returned to their respective empires. They brought their first batch of soul masters, who possessed spirits, to their empire's royal families to convince them. Everyone began to work on everything that had to do with establishing the Spirit Pagoda. Huo Yuhao spent most of the subsequent month on his experiments. Furthermore, experiments weren't the only things he had to do. He also had to draw the Spirit Pagoda's construction blueprints, and he had to record the spell for the equal contract and how to use it. This precious knowledge was sealed and stored inside the Sea God's Pavilion. Nobody asked Huo Yuhao about his army of undead, and Huo Yuhao didn't return to Shrek Academy. Di Qian requested he remained in the Great Star Do Forest to continue his experiments, which also meant that he could let Shrek Academy's people see him, but they couldn't bring him back. Huo Yuhao didn't object much to those requests, and he spent the subsequent month working hard at many different tasks. Shrek City was also very busy. They had sustained heavy losses when the beast wave washed over them. Repairs required quite some time, and a lot of materials and resources. Shrek's merchants and businessmen began to work on all fronts. Furthermore, after those soul masters returned to their respective countries, it didn't take long before the three empires sent diplomats to Shrek City to discuss matters regarding the construction of the Spirit Pagoda. Just as Huo Yuhao had predicted, not a single empire could resist the appearance of spirits. The diplomats sent forth by those countries were here to negotiate and discuss how exactly the Spirit Pagoda was to be established, and how this organization was to be controlled. The incumbents underwent a long and drawn-out negotiation. Huo Yuhao didn't even bother to ask about how the negotiations progressed, because these things were no longer important to him. He believed that everything would be fine with Shrek Academy at the helm. In the end, those spiritual-type soul masters that the Spirit Pagoda produced in the future would be called Spirit Masters, which would be considered a new and separate profession. The three empires dispatched representatives from their various sects and academies to become part of the Spirit Pagoda's conference hall. Every empire had 9 seats, and every member had to at least be a soul doluo. Every empire had to ensure at least 3 people, who were members of the Spirit Pagoda's conference hall, were stationed in Shrek City. Besides these 27 members, Shrek Academy would also choose 9 people to become members. Their status was similar to that of an empire, as they participated in the Spirit Pagoda's future development. All 36 members would control the entire Spirit Pagoda's operation and development, while the headquarters would still be established in Shrek City. Huo Yuhao had discovered spirits, so he was nominated as the hall's 37th member. Furthermore, only he would be a member for life. The Spirit Pagoda would have to choose 4 Pagoda Masters, 1 main one, and 3 deputies, to deal with daily administrative tasks and whatnot. Every 10 years, the Pagoda's members and its Pagoda Masters would be re-elected, while no member could remain in office for more than 2 terms. Only those who were members before could participate in the election to become a Pagoda Master. The Spirit Pagoda's first conference hall meeting was carried out in the 2nd month, after Huo Yuhao's successful experiment. Everyone nominated the Master of the Sea God's Pavilion, Elder Xian, as the first Pagoda Master. 1 titled Doluor from each of the 3 empires, who were of good moral standing and reputation, were nominated as Vice Pagoda Masters. Huo Yuhao was a lifetime member, and he was appointed as the Honorary Pagoda Master. He didn't participate directly in the Spirit Pagoda's management, but his status within the organization was exceedingly high as, after all, spirits and the Spirit Pagoda wouldn't be around if not for him. At the same time, Shrek Academy fought hard to ensure Huo Yuhao become the only person who could participate independently in the election for the Pagoda Master in the future. In other words, he didn't have to represent the 4 different parties in the election. The Spirit Pagoda's various rules, regulations, and systems were being completed. After discussing things with the Great Star Do Forest, the Spirit Pagoda wasn't constructed within Shrek City in the end. Instead, it was located 5 kilometers outside of Shrek's southern city wall. This meant the Spirit Pagoda would be open to humans and soul beasts at the same time. Within the Spirit Pagoda's conference hall, besides its 37 human members, the Great Star Do Forest had its representatives as well. Di Qian personally led this group, and he was part of the conference hall, along with the Emerald Swan Bai Ji, the Demon Eye Tree Myriad Demon King, the Bear Lord, and the three-headed Devil Mastiff. 5 savage beasts represented the soul beasts within the conference hall. One savage beast would be permanently assigned to the conference hall to participate in all sorts of discussions and administrative matters. Furthermore, the soul beast's representative would have a special status, and this representative would have veto power for the conference hall's decisions. Of course, this veto power couldn't come from just one of them. All 5 savage beasts had to make a decision before Di Qian could propose and use their veto power. The Spirit Pagoda's power and authority seemed split up, but in reality, the continent's 3 native empires, Shrek City, and the Great Star Do Forest all supported it. This meant that there was no other organization across the entire continent that could compare to the Spirit Pagoda's backing. The humans hustled, and the Great Star Do Forest didn't idle, either. Di Qian personally stepped out to communicate with several other soul beast habitats, so that he could spread the situation about spirits to these other habitats. Huo Yuhao wasn't worried about how far Di Qian could go. With the Great Star Do Forest's absolute status in the world of soul beasts on the Dolor continent, convincing other soul beasts wasn't difficult at all. Probably only the extreme north, which was a place of bitter cold, was relatively more challenging, but soul masters rarely ventured there to obtain soul rings in the first place. 3 months quickly passed from the start of Huo Yuhao's first successful experiment, just like that. The Spirit Pagoda began operating on all fronts. The first batch of soul masters, who possessed spiritual-type martial souls, were selected by the 3 empires, and sent to Shrek City afterwards. Huo Yuhao was in charge of teaching them how to conduct equal contracts. Shrek Academy's soul masters were the first people to enjoy the benefits of spirits. Huo Yuhao directed everything personally, and more students from Shrek Academy, who reached bottlenecks, gained their own spirits. Over the past 10 years, Shrek Academy had gone through 2 different stages of vigorous development, with both soul tools and spirits, and Shrek City became increasingly powerful. Furthermore, the relationship between Shrek City and the Great Star Do Forest was being mended because of these new spirits, and Shrek City took this opportunity to rebuild and expand their city's surface area. They also made some long-term plans. Shrek City would be considered an inner city, and they would expand it 5 kilometers out from its city walls. 5 kilometers didn't seem like much, but those 5 kilometers were extended from Shrek City's original walls. Once these 5 kilometers were built up, Shrek City's surface area would be equivalent to any large-scale city in the 3 empires. The Sun-Moon Empire's behavior over these 3 months was relatively peaceful. Because of the Spirit Pagoda's establishment, the continent's 3 native empires didn't make a move against the Sun-Moon Empire, and this allowed Xu Qianran to heave a sigh of relief, to his own astonishment. Time was also exceedingly important for the Sun-Moon Empire. They had already spoiled their relationships with the other 3 empires, and a great war could happen at any time. The longer they could delay this war, the more time they had to prepare. Elder Di Qian. Huo Yuhao was still in the Great Star Do Forest's slaughtering grounds inside its core regions, and he called out while standing beside the water of life, as he faced the clean and limpid lake water. Over the past 3 months, the Spirit Pagoda had begun to take shape thanks to his hard work and efforts. Furthermore, he was the most welcomed human being inside the Great Star Do Forest. Just as how Wang Qiu'er was treated back then, the Scarlet King became his personal bodyguard. Huo Yuhao could proceed anywhere he wanted in the Great Star Do Forest smoothly and unhindered. This place was considered a forbidden ground for humans, but this place was like his own back garden to him. "You're here." Di Qian's voice rang out, and a black shadow quietly appeared in the middle of the lake. This black shadow arrived by the lakeshore in a few flashes. Di Qian had already handed everything that had to do with spirits over to Bai Ji for her to manage. Over the past 3 months, Huo Yuhao had taught the first batch of spirit masters, while also helping multiple soul beasts, who were near death, to transmit their spirits at the same time. As of today, more than 300 soul beasts had been allowed to extend their lives. From the perspective of the soul masters that these soul beasts fused with, this fact was equivalent to avoiding killing over 300 soul beasts. These soul masters would still choose spirits to substitute soul rings in the future, and they would kill even fewer soul beasts. Of the 5 savage beasts, with the exception of the Bear Lord, who rarely showed himself, the other 4 savage beasts, including the beast god, were very satisfied with everything that Huo Yuhao had done. Huo Yuhao bowed respectfully to Di Qian and said, Elder Di Qian, the Spirit Pagoda's foundations have been established. This is the first pagoda, so its scale will be relatively larger. Therefore, I reckon it will take at least 1 to 2 years to complete any follow-ups. There are 42 soul masters in the first batch of spirit masters, and their cultivation ranks vary from 4 to 8 soul rings. Under my guidance and my teaching, they are all able to conduct the contract on their own. Di Qian nodded and said, You humans are quite efficient. I've heard about these things from Bai Ji. Bai Ji was currently the first savage beast to be permanently stationed in the Spirit Pagoda's conference hall to represent all soul beasts. After the conference hall's first meeting with the whole committee, there were over 10 members who had been permanently stationed in Shrek City. Including the 4 pagoda masters, there were 9 other members from the 3 empires, while Shrek Academy's 9 members were all members of the Sea Gods Pavilion at the same time. Naturally, they were around, but in Shrek City instead. As for Huo Yuhao, he had been living in the Great Star Do Forest this entire time. He had been very busy over the past 3 months, but the beast god had treated him well. He had provided Huo Yuhao with all sorts of fruits that were full of spiritual qi, and in addition to the fact that Huo Yuhao was transmitting spirits every day, his spiritual power became steadier and more consolidated, while his soul power was raised by another rank. He had used Shrek Academy's soul power detectors to test himself, and discovered that his soul power was at rank 73, which was a little lower than his original prediction. However, this fact also told Huo Yuhao that every subsequent soul power rank, after rank 70, was of great magnitude. Huo Yuhao estimated that, with his current cultivation speed, and if he didn't encounter any special circumstances, opportunities, or epiphanies, he would become a title Doluo when he was around 30 years old. That would be an absolutely outstanding feat among humans. You were looking for me. What do you want? Di Qian asked Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao contemplated for a moment, then said, Elder, I have been accountable to you with regards to spirits. I wish to leave. Eh? Di Qian's aura instantly changed when he heard his words. His eyes suddenly became sharper, and he said, What's up? Is our Great Star Do Forest not good enough for you? This place is full of spiritual qi, and so dense with life energy. This place is most suitable for you soul masters to cultivate. If you are willing to, you can even stay beside the water of life to cultivate. Your future is boundless. Huo Yuhao raised his head and stared right into Di Qian's eyes. Then, how long do you plan to keep me here? Di Qian was momentarily stunned. Huo Yuhao lowered his voice and said, You should know, Elder, that humans cultivate a lot faster than soul beasts. Otherwise, we couldn't have dominated and conquered the entire continent within a few short tens of thousands of years. Yes, with my current strength, you can easily imprison me in the Great Star Do Forest. However, I trust that you won't restrict my cultivation, because that is the basis of my life in the end. Choosing death isn't difficult for me, but if you allow me to continue cultivation, I will become a titled Doluo in about 10 years, give or take. I will take 30 years more at most to become a transcendent Doluo, and with the abilities that I possess, not even you may be able to stop me once I become a transcendent Doluo if I want to leave. I am connected to the fortunes and fate of the entire Great Star Do Forest, so you can't kill me, and the most you can do is imprison me or seal me away. However, you should also understand my status in the human world. If you do that, the Academy will stop at nothing to turn the situation around, and the peaceful equilibrium that the humans have just established with your Great Star Do Forest will change once more. Are you threatening me? Di Qian muttered coldly. That enormous pressure that felt like a mountain to Huo Yuhao appeared once more and pressed down on him. Huo Yuhao forcibly resisted this pressure, as he grit his teeth and said, No, I'm not threatening you, I'm just stating facts. I will always be a friend to the Great Star Do Forest, and I can even promise you that I will never kill a single soul beast in the Great Star Do Forest ever again. However, there are still many things that I have to do, and I can't stay here forever. If you insist on keeping me here, then I will choose death. Chua has given the power of destiny to me, and you can imprison me here so that I will never be able to leave this place, but not even you can stop me from severing my own fate and destiny. This means that nobody in this world can stop me if I choose to die. Di Qian suddenly withdrew his pressure. He placed his hands behind his back and stared coldly at Huo Yuhao. Where do you want to go? What do you wish to do? Huo Yuhao forced a laugh and said, There's something that I have to do, and there's someone that I have to visit afterwards. And then, I have to fulfill a wish that I've always had. Di Qian asked again, and after you do all those things? Huo Yuhao was a little taken aback. He shook his head and said, I haven't thought much about afterwards. Di Qian said plainly, since that's the case, then I only have one request. After you finish everything you have to do, you must return. You can choose to reside in Shrek City, the Spirit Pagoda, or the Great Star Do Forest. All right, Huo Yuhao answered subconsciously, and his eyes filled with pleasant surprise in the next moment. Are you saying that I can leave? Di Qian was expressionless as he answered, I know that I can't keep you here, just like I couldn't keep the Emperor Beast here back then. With your current strength, people will have a hard time trying to kill you. Here, take this. Di Qian swung his hand as he spoke, and tossed something at Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao grabbed the item subconsciously. He looked down, and realized that Di Qian had given him something like a pendant. This pendant looked like a leaf, and it was about as big as an infant's palm. It was black all over, and there were ridges on its surface. These ridges shone faintly with purple hues. There was a single black line strung around this pendant, which didn't seem very thick, but was very tough. Wear this on your neck. You're not allowed to take it off. You can go now. With that, Di Qian turned around and drifted across the lake's surface. Huo Yuhao grasped the pendant, which felt faintly fresh and cool. He stared at Di Qian, who was slowly moving further away from him, and he instantly felt his mind and body relax. Waves of fatigue and exhaustion coursed over him as soon as he began to relax. He had toiled far too much over these past 3 months, which had been very tiring. Huo Yuhao hung the pendant around his neck. He wasn't hasty to leave. Instead, he crossed his legs and sat down beside the water of life and started to meditate. Huo Yuhao entered meditation very quickly, because his mind and body were relaxed. Flourishing soul power flowed through his body, and his immense spiritual power naturally rippled throughout his spiritual sea. Yuhao, Huo Yuhao's consciousness was dragged back into his own spiritual world as his name was called. Brother Sky Dream, Ice Empress. Huo Yuhao saw the Sky Dream Iceworm and Ice Empress drifting above his spiritual sea in their human forms after he entered his spiritual sea. The Sky Dream Iceworm snorted and asked, Do you know what Di Qian gave you? Huo Yuhao shook his head and said, I'm not sure. However, I can imagine that it's for my own protection. After all, my safety concerns the entire destiny of the Great Star Do Forest. The Sky Dream Iceworm sighed and said, Foolish kid. That thing is both beneficial and harmful to you. Huo Yuhao was stunned, it's both beneficial and harmful. What do you mean? The Ice Empress said, Di Qian gave you his reverse scale. Reverse scale? Huo Yuhao appeared to be thinking of something. Dragons have a reverse scale, and they'll be enraged and even go berserk if their reverse scale is touched. That scale? The Ice Empress nodded and replied, That's right. However, we discovered it too late. You've already worn it. Hi. Huo Yuhao asked, What's the problem if I wear his reverse scale? The Sky Dream Iceworm sounded very furious. Of course there's a problem. It's a huge problem, too. Dragons have a reverse scale. Whoever touches their reverse scale will incur their wrath, that is the truth. This piece of his reverse scale that he gave you can protect you. He forms a piece of reverse scale after a metamorphosis every 100,000 years, when he experiences heaven's wrath. It contains his origin strength. As for what kind of protection it can offer you, I'm really uncertain about that. However, it won't be weak. But you need to recognize that his reverse scale contains a trace of heaven's wrath. With this trace of heaven's wrath, you won't be able to obtain a godly seat. Godly seat? What's a godly seat? Huo Yuhao asked in confusion. The Ice Empress replied, We followed you in the hope that you'll reach that realm one day and become a true god. It is only then that we will be able to separate ourselves from your body. Furthermore, if we follow you into the godly realm, it'll be equivalent to us breaking the barriers of this world with your help. We will no longer be limited by our lifespans. Although the chance is very slim, we think that it is possible, given your current development and cultivation progress. Obtaining a godly seat is the most important stepping stone to your ascension to the godly realm. We don't know what the godly realm is like, but there have been legends about it. Among all of them, the legend about godly seats is the closest to the truth. In this world, humans are on the path towards the godly realm the moment they become a titled Doluo. Soul beasts are far less fortunate. Even if we reach a million-year cultivation, we'll still find it difficult to become a god. This is highly related to a godly seat. There are various explanations for what a godly seat is. The explanation that we agree on the most with is that the godly realm can only harbor a limited number of gods. Every god has a seat that belongs to him. One can only become a god after obtaining a godly seat. This is why all living creatures have to find a seat that belongs to them in the godly realm if they want to become a god. One can then overcome the restrictions of the Doluo continent through their connection with his seat and reach another level. Eventually, they can then ascend into the godly realm through their powers at that level. This thing that Di Qian gave you basically acts as a barrier that prevents you from connecting to a godly seat. Huo Yuhao was stunned and asked, "Can't I just take it off?" The Sky Dream Iceworm laughed coldly. "You can try to do so when you return. Unless you die, you won't be able to take it off." Huo Yuhao quickly calmed down. "Is there any other way that I can obtain a godly seat?" The Ice Empress said, "Yes. By killing Di Qian." "Can you do that?" "Another way is if your cultivation is beyond his. He is already at the limit of this world. You'll be a god if you can surpass him. How will you be able to do so? Also, the seal of Di Qian's reverse scale can be removed if a true god descends and does it for you. You can obtain a godly seat if any of these three possibilities occur. Which one do you think will happen? No matter how talented you are, you'll still need 100 years before you can reach Di Qian's level. However, you won't be able to defeat him, given that he possesses the Dragon King's claw. Although Di Qian isn't far from his 9th metamorphosis, this far away must be contextualized in the situation of a soul beast. Di Qian is currently suppressing his cultivation. Given his current aura, he'll be fine even if he suppresses it for another 10,000 years. Can you survive for another 10,000 years? Once you die of natural causes, your power of destiny will dissipate from your body, but it won't dissipate forever. As to what method he can use to accept this power of destiny, I am unsure. However, I believe there must be a way. This is why he wanted you to live near the Great Star Do Forest, after completing everything that you have to complete. After hearing the Sky Dream Iceworm and Ice Empress explanation, Huo Yuhao was completely shocked. Even though he knew that the conflict between soul beasts and humans was going to be very difficult to mediate, he didn't expect it to be so dangerous. He had been foregoing his sleep and diet over the past few months, because he wanted to complete as many spirit transmissions as possible between humans and soul beasts. He had been completely selfless. However, he was gifted with such a reward. The Sky Dream Iceworm said, "It has always been rumored that a godly seat exists somewhere on the Doluo continent. Did you forget how Shrek Academy's collection records this? Your ancestor, Tang San, eventually became a god after he was recognized by a godly seat and passed the test upon discovering the sea god's godly seat. However, you are currently in a situation where you can't advance any further even if you come across an opportunity. Di Qian used such a method to kill off any possibility of you becoming a god. While humans are sinister, soul beasts are, he. The Ice Emperor sighed and said, "To a certain extent, Di Qian isn't wrong to do so. He is the king of soul beasts. He is only doing this for the Great Star Do Forest's legacy." The Sky Dream Iceworm cursed, "What do you mean he isn't wrong? We are all soul beasts." Things are going well on his side, but he still chose to turn around and diminish our hopes. Idiot. Brother Sky Dream, Ice Empress. Huo Yuhao suddenly called. Hearing that his voice sounded a little weird, both of them couldn't help but turn their attention towards him. Huo Yuhao drifted calmly above his spiritual sea. However, both the Ice Empress and Sky Dream Iceworm seemed to realize something different about him at this moment. He quietly remained where he was, but there was a towering feel about him. His eyes were shining brightly, and the look in his eyes was very determined and persistent. "Do the both of you believe me?" Huo Yuhao's voice sounded a little weird as it echoed in his spiritual sea. Instantly, his surging spiritual sea instantly became calm and peaceful. It was so calm that there weren't any ripples at all. It was like a still and sturdy surface. Both soul beasts were stunned and subconsciously nodded. Huo Yuhao said, "Brother Sky Dream, if not for you, I wouldn't be here today. My martial soul would have remained disabled. Even if I followed eldest senior and teacher Xiao Ya to Shrek Academy, I wouldn't have been able to achieve anything. I wouldn't have been able to fuse with the Ice Empress. You gave me 4 strong soul rings and a second martial soul. All my achievements are a result of my fusion with you. Ice Empress, it's the same for you. Your recognition of me allowed me to possess ultimate ice, such that I was able to develop a goal and outline in the aspect of assault. The soul rings and soul bones that you gave me have saved me on many occasions. The 2 of you are my benefactors. Without you, Huo Yuhao wouldn't exist today. Since the 2 of you believe in me, let me make a promise to you right now, today. Give me 30 years. Within 30 years, I'll do my best in my cultivation and attain powers that can rival the beast god. I'll challenge him then. I'll use my own abilities to remove his black dragon reverse scale from my body. In the future, I might not be able to obtain a godly seat. However, I promise that I'll do my best to search for one. I won't give up even if there's only a glimmer of hope. I'll do my best to fulfill your wishes. All right. Huo Yuhao wasn't very loud, but he spoke with vigor and determination. After hearing his words, the Ice Empress and Skydream Iceworm appeared much more at ease. They looked at each other, and the Skydream Iceworm took a deep breath before saying, Yuhao, time isn't a problem. Given your current condition, as well as the auspicious Emperor Beast sacrifice, you'll at least be able to live for more than 300 years. It's too difficult for you to defeat the Beast God within 30 years. We won't restrict your goal. It's great as long as you have the determination to defeat him. Huo Yuhao deeply said, a man stays true to his word. Whatever I promise to do, I'll do my best to carry it out. The Skydream Iceworm and Ice Empress nodded. We'll do our best to help you, too. Huo Yuhao calmed down as he regained awareness of his actual body. After that, he surveyed the black dragon reverse scale around his neck through his spiritual power. However, the reverse scale was like a deep valley as it absorbed his spiritual power, even though there was only minimum contact between his spiritual power and the reverse scale. There wasn't even any feedback. In addition, Huo Yuhao clearly discovered that this piece of reverse scale had completely stuck to the skin on his chest. It was as if it had become a part of his body. Fortunately, Brother Skydream and the Ice Empress warned me. Otherwise, I would have thought that Di Qian was being nice to me. Huo Yuhao didn't blame Di Qian. Di Qian was only doing this for the future of the great Star Do Forest's destiny. From the perspective of his interests, Di Qian's actions were justified. However, he had a different opinion of Di Qian right now. Originally, he had developed respect for Di Qian after a hearty talk with him. However, he now had only the intention of maintaining a professional partnership with the Beast God. This video will end here.